So we went through and we added this really nice looking intro card graphic. Now, the next step, and probably something you're definitely gonna come across in a video like this, is there's gonna be other parts in your video where you wanna label something or you wanna give some type of descriptive text to certain parts of the video. So I just added four of these kind of reminders for myself as I was going through this edit that these are points in the video where I want to add a little some type of information about this property. So what I did is I just typed out a few descriptory things like, the location, the square footage, indoor outdoor living room, what the bedroom and bathroom situation is for this property specifically. So I'm going to highlight the first title card that I want to add in to the edit, and I'm going to go to this title card that I just kind of put as a temporary placeholder. We're going to switch it around, but I'm going to go ahead and paste this information, and let's go ahead and move this up. Now, for information that you're putting and displaying on screen that's not a centered, very important, intro graphic, when it's during the edit, you don't really want to have things on the bottom middle. Generally, it's best for this kind of information, like people's names, locations in the video, times of day, all those cool little pop-up graphics that you see. Generally, they're on the bottom right or the bottom left. There are a few situations where it makes sense in the edit, but you'll kind of see that it just looks better and it fits better on the bottom off to one side. Now, if let's say we chose to go to the bottom left, it looks better if we also justify, I believe it's called, our alignment to the side that we want to choose. So if I want to go to the left, and let me actually scale this down so it starts looking a little bit better. Yep, that's a lot better. Generally, your text is going to look a lot better if you align it. So this is left aligned. And if let's say I wanted to go to the right side, I would hit the right aligned side and I would go ahead and scoot it over. And that's going to look a lot better and a lot cleaner. But personally, kind of like the same way we read a book from left to right, I personally think that this kind of information does the best on the bottom left part of the screen. And you want to leave some padding. You don't want to put this kind of information like that. Back in the day when things used to go on television, imagine that. If you were an editor, it would pretty much be only going most of the time. You'd be editing stuff for television or for movie, and those had different kind of display ratios. So there was this thing called a title safe margin, and you would never want to place your text or any part of the video outside of the borders that this type of overlay shows you. So these days, when things go on YouTube and Instagram, we don't really have to worry about the way it's displayed on different types of displays, but it is kind of nice if you do put on one kind of these kind of overlays. There's the safe margins, transparency grid that's a bit different. There's even this like ruler one, which I don't use, but the safe margin is a good way to have equal spacing to the left and to the bottom and just kind of use it as a guide frame of where it might look good for your text to fit in the best. And just a good rule of thumb is try to keep equal spacing below the text and to the left of the text. If I have it kind of like this, it just looks a little bit funky. But if the spacing is similar below and above, that's when it looks good. If it's got a lot of space below, but not a lot of space to the left, it looks a little bit strange, right? So this is a good rule of thumb to go for when you're adding this kind of graphic. And there's no specific hard rule that you really need to follow unless your client is asking it specifically. But the more you're centered, the more that this is the focus and what's behind it is secondary. So if this is in the center, you're telling the audience that, hey, this is this This is like the center of the target. You're always aiming for the center, right? So if it's in the center, it's the main focus. The more you bring it off to the side, the more it's secondary. They're seeing what's happening in the image, and then they get to see the details that you're providing them. So it's a fine balance. You don't want to have it too far out towards the center. You don't want to have it too far down so it looks like it's about to fall out of the image. There's a middle ground. So you can find that middle ground. Some of it is just personal preference, and then find that middle ground and just find something that feels right and looks aesthetically pleasing. So now that we have the area where we know we want this title to go, next step would be to do the similar process that we did with this first graphic. And let's go ahead and see which font we use. Okay, I never know how to pronounce this one. Montserrat. No, yes. Okay, I called it Monsterrat for the first few years. I was using it. Monster. Okay, I still don't even know how to say it, but MON. I know it starts with MON and a T. Let's hit add. And let's go ahead and do a similar thing that we did before. We can make this light and add a little bit of a stroke so that it's not too wiry. It's got a little bit more weight to it. And we can shrink this down a little bit. Yep. And because there's a lot going on in the background, it's really helpful for these kind of title cards to add what's called a drop shadow. Now, I know we've talked about this already, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but you're basically creating a shadow behind the font. So that is going to help it stand out a lot more. If I were to move it away, you can see what that drop shadow is looking like. If I were to turn up the thickness of the drop shadow, you can start to see. And there's really a fine line. Like, I personally don't like seeing a drop shadow. I like to really have it there subtly in the background so you don't notice it, but it just barely helps to keep the text separated from the backdrop so that you can clearly read the words that are on screen. Because if you can't, if it's not legible, then there's no point of it even being there. It'll be more of a distraction than anything else. So we have a little bit of a drop shadow, and I'm going to go ahead and do something similar with adding a line, just like what we did with our previous edit. Now, there's just something about having a line. I don't know what it is, but with text, and when you add basically some type of line, it kind of helps to frame up the text and helps it to sit in your image a little bit better. It feels a little bit more that it's placed properly. So we can kind of experiment here, and we can like try the line at the bottom. That's not that great. We could try it at the top. That's okay. It's not looking too good. We can even try rotating it 90 degrees and putting it, oops, and put it, oh, jeez, God, and put it kind of vertically, which I definitely like doing sometimes. So let's get it the proper length. Let's move it over. And I like that. So this is without, it kind of, it's there, it's okay. But as soon as we add that, it just adds a little bit more purpose, and a little bit more structure for what we're seeing. So let's go ahead and see what we have. I'm going to put this to 0 so that the line expands. Yep, perfect. Okay. And we can speed that expansion up just a little bit. Okay, now let's add a fade in, just like what we did before. And a fade out. We can make that fade even longer. Okay. And you know what? Because we have this cool vertical line now that's happening, and we want to add a little bit more of an animation, just like what we did with this first one, just to kind of create a little bit more of a professional feel. We can totally do that motion blur thing again. Um, that's definitely a go-to that I use a lot is adding that motion blur. It always looks elegant. It always looks clean. But for this one specifically, I want to, try something different. So we can go in to our effects tab and type in wipe. And this is going to be a transition, kind of an intro transition effect. So what it's going to do is it's going to have the clip just like that scroll sideways. So you see how it's coming in from left to right versus before where it was just fading in all at once. So in this way, it kind of goes out of this vertical line that we added. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. Now, if we wanted to have a little bit more control, I don't like how this isn't feathered. It's just a solid line. You can see there's no feathering. It's just like one really harsh line that goes across. Now, if we want to take it a step further and have a little bit more control, instead of using a preset wipe transition, we can go in and type in crop. And this is going to allow for us to have a little bit more control over this transition. So if I go to the middle of the clip, we have left, top, right, bottom. Now, if I scale up the left one, you can see, okay, we're scrolling from the left. And if I scale up the right one, you can see that we can do this wipe, but manually. And the thing is about doing it manually is then we can add this edge feathering. So now that is looking a lot better. We have more of a gradual effect that this transition is going to have versus the kind of harsh, hard line. So let's go to the beginning of the edit, or the beginning of the title card, turn our stopwatch on with the effect fully engaged, and let's go to where we want the text to be seen fully, right there. And let's see what we got. Okay, that's looking a lot better. So it really just kind of gradually comes out and gradually displays. And now we can do that same exact thing to the outro. So where our opacity starts to go down and we have the natural fade out, let's do another keyframe, go to the end, and put our crop all the way back up to 100 so that it comes back in gradually. So, and then it'll go whoosh. There we go. And we can even add, how the line expands and comes in? Now we can add the line going back. So let's go to our height of our line, just like what we did earlier with the uniform scale kind of hack that I've discovered. Go back and hit a keyframe, go to where we want it to disappear fully, and put this at 0. Nope. Put this, yep, at 0. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that looks really clean, right? We're getting the information. It's legible. It looks professional. And there's even an intro and outro animation so that it doesn't look just like so that it doesn't look just like a really simple, plain looking title card.